Have you ever wondered in the middle of the night? If you take a world map and look at the continents, you'll notice that each one is separate from the others. Even the Americas, though they might seem connected, are actually divided by dozens of rivers and bodies of water in Central America, like the Atrato River in Colombia and its tributaries, as well as the Panama Canal. Australia is completely isolated from other continents, and while Africa and Asia do share a land border in northern Sinai, it's relatively small. But when you look at Asia and Europe, they appear completely fused together, with a vast shared landmass. Russia even has direct borders with China and North Korea. So why is this massive landmass divided into two continents with separate names, even though it's technically one continuous piece of land? Welcome to Midnight Reflections, where curiosity never sleeps. Now, let's find out. Before we can answer our question, we first need to understand what a continent actually is. The term continent is incredibly vague and doesn't have any strict criteria. If you search "what is a continent" on Google, you'll find that it's simply defined as a large landmass without any specific requirements. Even if you dive into academic books and references, you won't find a universally agreed upon definition. Because of this, different classification systems have emerged, with various groups defining continents based on their own perspectives. From a historical standpoint, ancient civilizations had their own unique ways of classifying continents. Many cultures believed that they lived on a distinct, superior landmass, while everyone else inhabited inferior, foreign lands. For example, the Chinese once considered their homeland to be part of a sacred continent. The Indians believed they lived on a vast landmass called Greater India. They even created maps imagining the world in this way. The Greeks had a similar approach. In the 5th century BCE, the Greek historian Herodotus described the land where Greece and its surrounding regions were located as Europe. Meanwhile, the land east of the Rioni River was labeled Asia, without explaining why these names were chosen or why the land was divided that way. And Herodotus wasn't the only one who said this. Many other Greek thinkers shared the same perspective. It's believed that they promoted this concept to culturally distinguish themselves from the civilizations of the East, such as the Persian Empire, with whom they had ongoing conflicts. For the ancient Greeks, the world was divided into 3 continents: Europe, Asia, and Libya, which referred to Africa at the time. Since modern Europeans are the cultural successors of the ancient Greeks, having inherited Greek knowledge through Muslim scholars who translated Greek texts, they naturally adopted the same classification system. However, without any real evidence, they argued that Europe and Asia were separate simply because their cultures, languages, and even religions were different. Their only geographical justification for this division? A mountain range. This mountain range, known as the Ural Mountains, stretches 2,400 kilometers, about 1,490 miles, from north to south. And according to their logic, everything east of the Urals is Asia, while everything west is Europe. And that's the reasoning they've stuck with throughout history. In reality, this reasoning is flawed and a major misconception. Where curiosity never sleeps. If we take a look at other mountain ranges worldwide, we'll see that the 3rd longest mountain range by length is the Rocky Mountains, which stretch over 4,800 kilometers, about 2,850 miles, literally dividing North America in half. Yet, no one has ever claimed that one side of the Rockies is one continent and the other side is a different continent. The world is full of massive mountain ranges that divide countries, but that has never been a basis for separating continents. And what about culture? The argument about cultural differences doesn't hold up either. Take Africa, for example. It has hundreds of distinct cultures, ethnic groups, languages, and religions with vast differences between African nations. Yet, Africa is still considered a single continent. Or look at India, a single country that contains hundreds of religions and languages. So, by geographical standards, Europe and Asia should be considered one continent, not two. Many modern geographers acknowledge this and use the term Eurasia to describe them as a single landmass. Now, here's the ironic part. There are alternative continental models that don't follow the traditional seven-continent system, and some of these models are even taught in schools. And guess what? Not a single one of these alternative models treats Europe and Asia as separate continents. This suggests that Europeans played a huge role in promoting the specific map we use today. For example, one classification method divides continents based on the large bodies of water that separate them. According to this method, a continent is defined as a large landmass completely surrounded by water. And by that definition, Europe and Asia are unquestionably one continent, since there are no major bodies of water separating them. So, based on this water-based classification, the world actually has 6 continents, not 7. And even within this model, there's another perspective that states, for a landmass to be classified as a separate continent, it must be naturally separated from its neighbors by a body of water. Following this logic, North and South America are not separate continents because the Panama Canal is man-made, not a natural body of water. So, both Americas are actually one continent. Africa is not its own continent either, since the Suez Canal is also artificial. Europe, Asia, and Africa, under this system, are considered one single massive continent called Afro-Eurasia. That means, according to this classification, the world has only 4 continents. But wait, there's another way to classify continents. The geological model. This classification is based on tectonic plates, the massive, moving slabs of Earth's crust. These plates aren't fixed, they slowly move over time, and the shifting of their boundaries is what causes earthquakes, volcanoes, and other natural disasters. If we classify continents based on tectonic plates, the world would look very different. India would be its own continent because it sits on a separate plate, the Indian plate. The Arabian Peninsula would also be a continent since it rests on the Arabian plate. The Philippines and the Caribbean would be separate continents as well. According to this model, the world would have around 12 continents. But even this classification considers Europe and Asia a single landmass because both are part of the same tectonic plate, the Eurasian plate, which stretches from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean. So, what's the truth? No matter which classification system you use, Europe and Asia are a single landmass. The only reason we separate them today is because European cartographers historically decided to keep the Greek classification alive, and it became the most widely used version. But geographically, historically, and geologically, Europe and Asia are one continent. Now you know, got more midnight questions? Drop them in the comments. Stay curious, and I'll see you in another Midnight Mystery.